We're Ahna, and we're a band from Vancouver, British Columbia, and on tour in Brazil right now. And we're in Porto Alegre at Music Matters, checking out records. My name is Andrew, and I'm the drummer and the vocalist.
I'm Thomas, and I play bass.
I'm Gray, and I play guitar.
We chose some records, and we're going to go through them now.
First record on my pile is Motorhead's Self-Titled. When I was a kid, my dad loved Motorhead and would always play this record, No Remorse, to the point where as I was beginning to learn English, my mom would get very upset because I'd be sitting in front of the stereo chanting Killed by Death. This record, a lot of the songs on No Remorse are from this. I found a copy of this on CD when I was in Italy, and I heard it for the first time after many, many years. Levy's bass playing has been a really big influence on my tone when I play bass, as well as all the other songs being really good, rock and roll, super fast and aggressive. So it's a really important record for me. Next, Black Sabbath, another great record out of this, and No Remorse, We Sold Our Soul for Rock and Roll. My dad would always play for me. I remember the first time hearing this in my teenage years. It was a title track. It was pouring rain outside. I just landed in Germany. I was going to Poland and couldn't hear anything but the rainfall, so I kept turning up the speakers. And then when the first riff hit, I was blown away. AC/DC is another band that I always listened to when I was a kid and still listen to all the time. They're one of my all-time favorite bands. Power Age, in my opinion, is a near perfect record. Point where when I got myself a gone shooting tattoo. Angus's energy when he's on stage he just doesn't stop. He keeps going. He's, I don't know how old now, in his 60s or 70s, and even now he's still running around, doesn't stop. Bon Scott's vocals are amazing. Can't get enough of AC/DC. Ramones, It's Alive. It's another really important one to me when I first started playing guitar and started getting into more punk music. The intensity of in between Johnny on guitar and Didi on bass, just constantly downpicking. I would put on their live records and live concerts, get my guitar as low as possible, and just downpick for hours and hours on end, practicing until that's how I could play. Same thing in Ahna. When I joined the band, I just kept going as much practice as I could so I could be downpicking almost the entire songs. And now I'm able to. And Ramones are another great rock and roll band. It's also a punk band. Once I started getting more aggressive music, this was one record that really blew me away just by how fast it is. Slayer's Rain and Blood. I've listened to mainly a lot of punk music like Heresy, Ramones, DRI. When I heard this, just how fast everything was and how short all the songs was, really blew me away. It took me a while to find other bands like that, and that got me into more grindcore, stuff like Napalm Death or Terrorizer. Slayer really kicked that off with this album. Their other albums are great too, but this one just made the biggest impact on me when I heard it for the first time. Dark Angel, Darkness Ascends, another fantastic example of how fast you can push yourself to go. Their nickname was the LA Caffeine Machine. Their motto was Too Fast My Ass, which I really took to heart with a lot of my bands. Don Dotty's vocals, guitar work, Gene Hogan's drums, everything is perfect on this record. Discharge. At first, I didn't like Discharge. I thought bands like Anti-Semix and Driller Killer did the DB style music way better. First record I heard from Discharge was Hear Nothing, See Nothing, and I just couldn't get into it. A few years later, my friend showed me why. I listened to it, and I got it. It's incredibly fast. The imagery, more imagery, just the simplicity of all the vocals, the drumming style, just the chainsaw sounding guitar, really influenced a lot of the bands I've done, like more punk bands, DB style bands. So another fantastic record.
And I'm gonna go through records that were important to me since I was a child. I'm 40 years old, so I'm old. So some of these all these records are old. But so when I was a little kid, my my friend's older brother needed money for cigarettes, so he'd sell me his tapes. And this was the first tape I bought. So when I was 9 years old, I really liked it because there was swearing on it. So this is a good album. Here's my history of metal. So this when I was my first experience with metal was through skateboarding when I was young, and a lot of the kids listened to Suicidal Tendencies, and so this was my doorway into metal, and it's ironically called like crossover. Like thrash metal, they say crossover because it's like punk crossed over into metal or vice versa or whatever. But this album is really raw, it's really cool, really good album. This is the first death metal I ever heard in my life. I listened to a radio station when I was younger, and they had 1 hour of metal a week or whatever. And I heard the song Chopped in Half. And I never hear a song like this before, so I'm 13 years old, in my bedroom alone at night, and all of a sudden I hear chopped in half, and then see a blood spill from your bowels, and then double kick. Maybe I never heard double kick like this before, and I've blown away, and ever since I always loved death metal, for sure. This is obviously Brazilian, and this is a very influential for music I listen to nowadays that's more raw kind of war metal and stuff. This Sepultura album is very influential. And nowadays this is my you say steez or whatever. This is what I'm into now, is this like punk raw death metal stuff, you know. This is a good album, really good album. So for a while, metal was really shitty when I was young. It got really technical, so I listened to other music. I got really into and it was cool because in the 90s people liked grunge and stuff like that, and so everyone thinks Nirvana is the best grunge band or whatever, but this band should have been Nirvana. But unfortunately, I think they blew their load with their first album, and they never made another album like this. But this album is some raw ass shit. This is like there wasn't a band since like the Stooges that were as like such a raw rock and roll band, or like MC5 or something. Nothing like this. Nothing like this. This is a great album. And this Ice Cube album, I imagine, is really expensive because it's the reissue, but it's a good album. You think he's only like 20 years old when he's writing this stuff, but it's really, really, really badass. Really badass. The politics are like, fuck you, man. Like, it's really cool. Good album. Good album.
Four niggas now making all the dough. White man just ruling.
In Brazil, they said, I've never heard a Canadian band before. What's a Canadian? Name one Canadian band. So I show you some Canadian bands. These are old bands, but they're interesting because she is Native American, like you say Indian or something maybe. But she, during the 60s when Americans got mad at communists, all the folk singers had to be careful. But she was from Canada, and she got blacklisted by the record industry, so she never could play in America again till maybe the 80s or something, where she was the first woman to breastfeed on Sesame Street on TV. Maybe she was the first person, but she's a Cree person from Saskatchewan, the Plains in Canada, and she's I don't know this album. It's the best hit, so it's probably got good songs, but yeah, she's one of my favorites. And then this guy, this is a really good Canadian album from a long time ago. It's really depressing. You want to slit your wrist when you listen to it. But this album is really good. And also people, they don't know that Rush is from Canada. And they're an amazing band. This album is very, very good. The cover isn't scary, I guess, but because it's just a dog sniffing a thing or whatever. But yeah, when I was a little kid, I hear the song Subdivision. It's about kids that live in the suburbs and have no meaning in life or whatever. And it's very, very good stuff, very good stuff.
Okay, so out of my choices, one of the first choices I want to talk about is Ozzy Osbourne's Diary of a Madman. So this record is really important to me because when I was in high school and I was first getting into music, I loved metal and I worshipped Ozzy Osbourne. And I loved Black Sabbath, but these records, you know, all the records with like Randy Rhoads on them and Zakk Wylde, like all these like super highly skilled guitar players were really of interest to me because it was basically taking aggressive music but making sure musicianship was a priority. And also Ozzy's fucking crazy. And so I always liked how he had this reputation for just being like a maniac. Yeah, so now, today, most of Ozzy Osbourne's like old records, like Diary of a Madman, I have the entire album memorized. And yeah, so that's my first choice. My second choice is Autopsy, Severed Survival, the two different covers. This is actually the cover I like better. This cover is the one that I usually got like t-shirts and posters of. And I didn't realize until much later that this art, this is one perspective. This is the perspective of the guy getting torn apart. And this is actually the other perspective. These are the doctors doing it. And I didn't learn that until like a lot later. So I started to, I didn't used to like this art in particular, but when I found that out, I thought that was awesome. So I got way more into the two types of art. Autopsy is obviously a very big influence for me because of Chris Reefer and like his vocals and drumming. And I don't think that I try to do vocals like him, but it's really hard to be a drummer vocalist and not be influenced by him. But Autopsy as a band overall, like I've always really loved them. And I've always thought that like the riffs are super punishing and like they're one of the most important old school death metal bands. In that book, the death metal book that we're reading, yeah, Glorious Times. In that book, every old school death metal band is saying like Autopsy is one of the most important bands, and they're all really excited to see Autopsy all the time. So that's a big influence for me. Another big influence for me is Death, of course. Again, if you hear my bands, you can hear a Death influence, especially my drumming. And this is Spiritual Healing, but the record, if I had found it, I would have chosen was actually Leprosy. But Spiritual Healing is still a really important record for me. This is where I start to get pushed to like, I guess sort of my limit with weirdness in death metal. So for me, like, I think I'm definitely much more conservative in my musical taste. I want everything to be like more like caveman, like primitive, and like really basic death metal stuff. And Spiritual Healing kind of pushes me to be a little bit more open-minded with other stuff. But this record's incredible, and I love this art so much. And yeah, all the vocals on it are so perfect. Angel. My favorite thing about Morbid Angel, Altars of Madness. Of course, I chose this one. But actually, I really like a lot of Morbid Angel stuff. But Pete Sandoval is a big influence for me as a drummer. And the best story I like about this record is Pete Sandoval from Terrorizer got asked to play in Morbid Angel before this record. And before this record was recorded and before they started to do their tours, he had not played double kick. He played single kick, and he was like an incredible single kick drummer. And when he started, he was like, "Holy shit! Like I am not a good enough double kick drummer." And he based like the story is, I feel like it's a legend. He spent 3 months like locked in a studio, like every single day practicing double kick. And his bandmates would come in and they would find him in like a pile of sweat sleeping in the studio. And so I always thought it was amazing that like somebody who had not played double kick recorded this record after only playing it for 3 months. And so it's a big influence for me. And the record overall is just fucking amazing. Cryptopsy, None So Vile, Canadian, Quebecois, metal. Again, the drummer Flo Minier. He's a big influence for me and a very, very, very important drummer in metal history. And Cryptopsy in particular, this record in particular, I think this is their best record, I think most people would agree. And in particular, there's one of the songs, the 6th track, Phobophile. There's a video on YouTube. It's a Lego video of Phobophile, and it's a fan video, and it's the best video I've ever seen. It's like little Lego characters, and the Lego version of the drummer, he's got, like, the person who did the video, he's got exactly the right hits. The double kicks on the Lego character are right, and even the cymbals that he chooses, somehow they created the cymbals with like the holes in them, and it's incredible. Like every snare hit, and like, yeah. So this is a great record, that's a great video. Mayhem, Chimera. Most people don't like this record, which is why I really wanted to talk about it, because this didn't influence my drumming, and it didn't really influence Ahna's music, but it did influence my guitar playing and my bass playing. I used to play bass in a black metal band called Bleeder, and I just wanted everything to sound like this record. And in particular, they have these guitar bends that are really awesome. And this is Sarcophago. I don't even know if I need to say anything, but I bought a Brazilian pressing of Sarcophago in Brazil, which is fucking awesome.